Hey everybody, welcome back to the crypt. I'm here with a very special collecting video. There's this horror store nearby that's doing like an inventory clear out, and so today we made a very special shopping trip and just went absolutely insane on figures. Now it can be kind of hard to find like decent horror figures around town. I mean, aside from stuff that's currently like in production by NECA or whomever. And a lot of the times you don't find anything really all that unique, or at least diverse. I mean, you can go to Target, for example, and find just all the Jasons and Freddys. But if you want something a little bit more specialized, you have to go to a specialty store or like trawl the internet. Like, very rarely do you find this stuff just kind of browsing around town. And this particular place had a huge variety, and without going into it in too much detail, because it's kind of a long, involved story, every once in a while, they're only open every once in a while, and I only go if they have like a crazy sale going on. So today we went and, ooh boy, we really broke the bank on stuff, but we came away with a ton of different figures. So we're going to get started with a breakdown of what we picked up. So the first thing that I was pretty happy with was they had a case with just loose figures, and so this is the Movie Maniacs Pumpkinhead, which I've had this on my wall for a while, but that one is like still sealed in the box, and I've always kind of wanted to like take it out and mess with it, because Pumpkinhead's design is pretty close to the Alien, because it's made by Stan Winston too, but I've always been curious to like mess with it, and so this was in the case for like $10 or something, so it's like, sure, great. So, as a Movie Maniacs figure, like, it looks really good, it just doesn't have a whole lot of motion, you know what I mean? Because, like, the NECA figures, like, will have, like, elbow and knee joints, and his legs are kind of fixed. Like, I thought they would at least, like, move a little bit, but no. He actually kind of needs his tail to stand up. But it's still a really cool figure, and I'm happy to have one that I can just kind of like move around, So the fun thing about the Movie Maniacs is they come with kind of like this backdrop to kind of make them cooler on display. It's a little damaged on this one, but I don't really care all that much. So maybe I can put him on my Ghostbusters firehouse. He is a demon, after all. And speaking of aliens, so one of our first big roundups, this is actually by NECA. Like, I thought it was by McFarlane when I first saw it. So it's the Grid Alien from AVP, which is a character that I really like from that movie, like, despite a lot of the criticism that the series gets. So I'd always wanted this character like in figure form, but he was always kind of hard to find, and I am fairly confident this was worth somewhat more than I paid for it. So I think it was like 20 or so, which is kind of the standard rate for like a good horror figure. Like a NECA figure is probably going to cost you at least 20, like no matter where you go. And with this being like a much, much older one, like let's see if we can find the date on this. Oh, 2016. I am proven an idiot. Well, I'm kidding. Like, you don't see these in stores anymore, so pretty happy with that. That was our first alien. I think we got some more aliens. Yeah, we do. So this is the Ultimate Alien 3 that they put out. So for people who may not know, there was a Super NES and an NES game for Alien 3. I actually owned it when I was a kid. It's sort of a cute story. Like, we just saw like the Alien 3 box, which looks just like this on the shelf, and even had like the little Nintendo seal of approval, which is the NECA seal of approval now. And we were just so excited. Oh, look, Dad, there's Alien. We bought it without realizing like which system it actually went with. Like, I tried to play an NES game in my Super NES. It's sort of a cute memory. But yeah, this was You know, it's one of the video game figures where it has kind of like the HUDs from the game like in it. So yeah, it would really look like that. And it was kind of a weird game where you had to like rescue prisoners trapped in cocoons, and aliens were everywhere. Even though in Alien 3, you know, it's just the one alien. Um, Actually, it probably would have been. You could probably do like an alien isolation thing with the plot of Alien 3, but it's kind of cool because it's got like the two-tone thing. I don't know if you can really tell all too well. Like he's like half that kind of brownish copper. Like the figure looks like this. Uh, you can kind of get a better view on the back. So hopefully the camera is picking that up. Let's see if that fixes it. Well, hopefully you can see that. So, but all in all, it's a decent representation of the dog alien. And it looks like he's even got a couple more joints than a lot of the aliens do. So, good figure, especially for 15. So, kind of revisiting our previous pickup video. So, we got there's a Soda Toys. We got the Soda Toys Darkman, which was also pretty cheap there. It's like, a lot of people I've talked to, like, they love Darkman, but for some reason, Darkman stuff just isn't all that expensive. Like, this was like $12. Like, okay. So, even if I end up, like, hating the movie, you know, I didn't miss out on too much. And, well, he seems cool. Like, comes with, like, a background, a few extra hands and stuff. This is something that I'll just kind of, like, tack up on the wall, sort of just like this. So, kind of shifting franchises yet again. So, this is the Ash and, like, Demon Children set that came out way back when Season 1 of Ash vs. Evil Dead came out. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to get this at Toys R Us a few times. It's like RIP, by the way. But it was never quite at a price point that I liked. But today it was pretty cheap, so it was like, you know what, sure. I like how they... Look at his fucking face. It's like they got like his sarcastic expression, or... I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. Like, it has character. That sounded so pretentious. Moving along, we have Death from Ingmar Bergman's infamous The Seventh Seal. Oh, maybe infamous is the wrong word. Like, revered, acclaimed. It's a pretty good movie. It's like, oh, wait, no, this is the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one. Which, you know, they actually used the same design for Death in both movies, so the joke feels appropriate. Like, I didn't even know this existed until I saw it, like, at that place, and it's like, oh, that's neat. And it was reasonable, you know, so I'm not exactly sure when or where this was actually offered, like, for sale, because I have the Rufus, like, George Carlin figure that came from the Shout Factory, like, special bundle for Bill and Ted. But I didn't know there were other ones, so I kind of want to do more research on that. Oh man, we bought a lot of stuff today. We probably shouldn't have, but you know, when it's cheap and it's there, you know, it's hard to resist. I have a problem. So we got another Movie Maniacs figure, the Blair Witch, which the Blair Witch is never seen in any of the Blair Witch films, at least as far as I know. I didn't see the second one. So there are two variants of the Blair Witch in the McFarlane series. Like, the other one looked kind of like, if you play Dead by Daylight, the other variant looks kind of like the hag's like plant skin. Like, the other one looks made of wood and it's got like antlers. It's very hard to describe. But I went with the crone Blair Witch, personally, just because it looks slightly more like the hag compared to the other one. And it's still cool. I mean, it comes with like, the sticks and associated weird random things. But yeah, so I think McFarlane just came up with this design for the Blair Witch just all on his own, which makes it kind of special. But it's I don't know. I actually liked the Blair Witch. I mean, it gets a lot of flack nowadays, but you know, somehow it's just a really effective movie. And then we have an Amok Time Killer Clown. Which, again, this was probably a lot cheaper than it should have been, even before their sale markdown. So I thought this was the clown from the poster, but pretty sure I got it mixed up. There weren't all that many different killer clown figures produced. I think they only have the three or four clown designs that made it into figure form, and to just have one at all is kind of a big deal, because again, I like collection diversity, and that was it's something you don't really get to indulge in very much. So especially with the specialty figures like this, I mean, this came out forever ago, and if you're looking around on eBay, it gets depressing pretty quick, let's just say that. So, and if it turns out, I ever have to get rid of it or whatever, I have a friend of mine who's really into Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and I can probably trade him for a bunch of stuff. So, I was especially excited about this next one. Because I've always wanted a good Beetlejuice figure. This seemed to be the only one, though, and it was just, ridiculously high in price. But, again, the sale. The reason I bought so much stuff is because, the sale made it so much more palatable to get all of these. I mean, a lot of these are... I basically paid about what they would have been when initially released, which is really good for me because I sort of got into the figure collecting a bit too late, I mean, we're remedying it now, but it's kind of like catching up on... It's kind of like catching up on a TV series that you love, but you should have started a lot sooner. So, but... One thing that kind of bothers me, though, is, Beetlejuice looks kind of fat, doesn't he? I don't remember him having, that big a gut. But it's probably just my imagination. So, and this is actually a NECA. Some of the stuff is old enough that it could have been made by McFarlane and it just wasn't a Movie Maniacs figure, so I get a little confused. Excuse me. So I told you there was a lot of stuff. So, and then we've got, so for a while, this one is a McFarlane. So for a while, McFarlane was doing, music icons. There's an Alice Cooper, there's an Ozzy Osbourne, well, a different Ozzy Osbourne, there's a Rob Zombie, and, there's a bunch of these guys. And I actually bought one of these in high school, and I still have it, except mine is loose, and it's been knocked around pretty good over the years. But, with the sealed one being actually cheaper than the first one was, oh my god, back in, 2006 when I bought it? It was, the timing was perfect. It's okay, let's get one that's in, pristine shape that I can just kind of, I hang these on my wall, so just put them up there, lined up with, Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. It's gonna look great, so I'm pretty happy that was still there. Because the place is open, more or less once every 2 months, or something to that effect. It really tends to vary. And it was one of my things, it's geez, I hope that's still there. Almost done, guys. So, and now this is sealed, which, not exactly sure how I should approach that. So, this is the Nightmare on Elm Street NES style Freddy, which, a while ago, NECA put out an NES Jason along with this NES Freddy. I think they were Comic-Con exclusives or something to that effect, but I'm just not exactly sure. It was kind of before I started doing this collecting thing. Which I kind of wish I could, like, open this up because it's, like, shrink-wrapped. So I have no idea what the actual figure looks like. However, I know that... I don't know exactly which month they're coming out, but Nick has been talking about, it's like, oh yeah, we're reissuing, you know, both this Freddy and the NES Freddy and the NES Jason, like, Ultimate Box are getting reissued to GameStop at some point early next year. So I might just keep this original run version sealed, but I don't know, I'm probably going to open it up at some point anyway, because I want to see the figure, you know? Whew. And finally, so this is what makes going to that place, like, worthwhile. So the guy who owned it was a really major collector of just all this stuff, and he would go to conventions and get stuff signed. And so all of his signed stuff has been up for sale. And some of it, ooh, suspense. And some of the figures are, I can't think of a polite word that's appropriate. Some of the prices are, but a few of them are actually, like, reasonable, and especially with the sale they had. So this is the Amok Time Tarman, signed by the guy who played the Tarman, whose name I always mess up these guys' names. Like, that's my problem. But yeah, it's signed by the actor. And so there are actually two. I don't know if it's showing up very well because, see, I kind of hate it when people sign with, like, colored ones sometimes, because, like, it's really hard to pick up on. See, you signed it in red. Like, it looks cool in person, but it doesn't seem to show up too well on my monitor, so hopefully you guys can read it. So I had my choice of quotes. I had brains or more brains, and I went with more brains because that's just a much more iconic line. At least for other people. Like, I personally like the moment where he says brains more, but it seemed like a silly thing. Plus, you know, more brains. And this was only, I think, $60, which was pretty great. So, because the figure itself usually goes for $60. So this video is a little different, where we talk about kind of the value, which usually I don't like to do, just in case. Well, values change, of course, and the point of collecting is, at least for me, kind of to have fun with it and not really obsess over that too much. Although the value definitely does matter, you know, you want to make sure you're not getting, like, ripped off or anything. And this was kind of the last thing I picked up, like, running out the door, because I saw it and it was like, it's the Djinn, signed by the actor, who's, again, man, I'm gonna get in so much, people are gonna, like, be mad at me for not remembering people's names. Like, I can't read cursive. Like, I'm sorry, guys, I just can't. But it's signed by the guy who played the Djinn in Wishmaster, and, like, from everything I've seen, he is such a cool guy. I'm the Wishmaster. It's like, whenever I think of Wishmaster, I just remember that line, delivered exactly like that. And so it is really cool to have something signed by him. So the Djinn's actually also a pretty nice figure, too. So he even comes with, like, the gem from the movie, which is more or less his, like, lamp. That sounded really stupid out loud. So, one of the kind of nice things, too, is a lot of times with the figures, like, the way they're put into the packages always, like, differs a little bit. And what's nice about this one is he's, like, looking right at you, and you get, like, a good view of the figure. So, those are my two big highlights. Now, these are supposed to come with COAs, but you have to have the place, like, print them off or whatever. Otherwise, I'd be showing those off, too. But, I mean, hey, you know, it was not a cheap trip by any means. Whew, good lord. Just thinking about it kind of hurts my stomach, actually. But considering, like, all the value we got, just damn. So the place won't be open again for quite a long time. But I think we got basically everything great that was left over. So there were a few things I really wanted to pick up. Like I wanted to get an Ultimate Leatherface, which is a more recent figure NECA put out. I already have one, but I've kind of started liking opening the NECA figures up and like posing them because, like, it's a bit of a long story, but to summarize, I mean, I used to open the NECA figures up, but back when I first started buying them, they were really fragile and break like super, super easy. And so after a while, I just started keeping them like in the package. And then a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to get some of their Ultimate figures like very, very, very cheap. And so I was like, well, okay, I already own this figure, but I'll buy it, I'll open it up, and, lo and behold, it's like, hey, the quality seems a lot better now. Like, they don't break right away. And so I've been kind of wanting to get certain ones out and, like, mess with them. So my goal is to have, Freddy, Jason, Myers, and Leatherface, like, all lined up. And hopefully, by the time our next video comes around, I'll have found the recently released Halloween 2018 Myers, which I've been seeing people, like, sharing pictures of it. So I know it's kind of out there. I know it's out there in the wild. I just haven't encountered it for myself yet. But digression aside, it was a great collecting trip and a pretty good day, all things considered. There were some issues with transportation that I won't go into, but it was a good time. Hopefully I can keep most of this stuff in good conscience. Because there were a few things where it's like, oof, that's a lot. Oh, okay. Everything here was very well priced. It was just like, I bought so much like volume. Which usually the problem with collecting trips like that is that you kind of go overboard on like one item. Like I think in a previous video I shared the Sideshow Freddy, signed by Robert Englund, that I picked up. I mean, that cost almost as much as, like, half of this trip, just in the one item. But, this was really great, and, it's always nice as a collector to have the opportunity to, like, go through a collection like that.